You have some of the Europe countries that don't have, that their money is not recognized. But when you go to such country, you see them, you see the country, they are thriving in terms of their policy, in terms of practice, in terms of trade, in terms of, I mean, name it, relationship with other countries. Why are these things happening? Why? Now you start looking at it from one angle. Growing up, I discovered that if you, for example, in a ministry, back in the days in the ministry, when you are a director general in a ministry, you're only allowed to use the official vehicle of the ministry if only you're a director. The man does not have that corrupt mind where he will want to take all the money in the treasury to himself. The man believes that after working for 25, 26 years, he will go somewhere and retire. I mean, will retire and go somewhere to relax and get his gratuity. The corruption among the people affect the system, affect the policy, affect our trade, also affect our thinking. So why will you want to trust me? Or why will I want to trust you if I'm doing business with you? I would prefer to trust the American than trusting you. I would prefer it. Now, recently something happened. I work with a company. I don't want to, I just want to do with fact. I like working with fact. I work with a company. Let me call the name of the company so that some of us will be aware. The company name is Netster. Netster. Norman N-E-T, then staircase. Stair. Netster. They have different products. Every year they do, I think annual revenue, ARR, is around $18 million. And then the stock market also. Because it's an American company. Because it's an American company. So I'm supposed to be worshiping American company, owned by an American. So I'm supposed to be a slave. That is what they are telling me. And I corrected the CEO. His name is Ahmad. I think he should be from Pakistan who became American also. I corrected him. I said something. I said in Africa, in Nigeria, in any part of African country, we are humans like you. We are no slaves, or we are people who have the skills, or you have your expertise. All you need to do is to render your service, and also I get paid. Maybe because of the money he wants to pay, or maybe because of the money the company wants to pay in dollars. So one should start seeing them like demigods. So it's easy for me to trust them than to trust an African. Quote and unquote, I'm talking about an African. Okay, fast forward. After 3 months to 4 months, you will not believe this. I was not paid one kobo till date. Because they claim to be honest in their transactions, they claim to be honest in all they do, they claim to be honest with their policies, that they have a system, they have structures that is better, that is driving the economy or making them to look, I mean, making their money look superior to every other currency. Now, that is one man I'm picking from the crowd. The same thing applies to an African. Why do I want to do a business with an African? An African is not going to trust me. Why do an African believe that if I have to pay you, I have to pay you in dollars, pay you in pounds? Why? Another question I ask is, presently, there are issues in UK, when I mean issues in UK, I'm talking about economy. At least we understand the economy has dropped to a level compared to back in the days. Why is the same pounds still have that strength, still that have that international recognition? Why is that pound so powerful that others are looking at the pounds? Oh, this money still remain the money that people should value. So what is really happening? Is it that the Africans don't understand how to work their policy with their mindset, or the Africans don't understand that people will just talk about this? Africans need to be productive. Africans need to be productive. How do they become productive when they don't even understand? They are supposed to be re-educated. They don't understand what it means to do this and make something out of it. All they believe is stomach infrastructure, like we usually call it. When I go out there to work, is to work, earn the money, take care of my family, feed myself. Every money I get is to feed myself. What about the future? How about your environment? How about the small businesses? How about the trade? What structure do you have from the trading? From the trading to the small business, from the small business to the corporate, from the corporate to other businesses. In America, it is not the government, it's not the government parastatals that are making the economy to thrive. It is the small businesses to other businesses that are making the economy to thrive. That is why the dollar has strength. So what are we Africans doing to make sure we're able to look at the grassroots, look at the transactions we used to have, look at the relationship we used to have, and opportunities we have around, yeah, and opportunities we have. What are those things? Those are the things we have to start considering. When you start considering those things, you start looking at it from that level where you now see things start working the way it ought to be. Now, I spend most of my time, I have business in Rwanda, and I spend most of my time in Rwanda than Nigeria. When you go to Rwanda, if you go to that parastatals, if you go to that parastatal, for example, when you go there, anything that has to do with $20 is $20. You don't need to bribe anybody. Go there, pay your $20 and move ahead. What is $50? You pay $50 and move ahead. But in my country, Nigeria, what is $20? I'm going to spend $200 for getting it. Now, is it the policies or the people? It's the people. So when we start looking at the people from the grassroots and start looking at the trade among ourselves, the relationship among ourselves, before we start talking about international relationship with other countries, let's start looking at ourselves. How do we converse? Our conversation, our interactions, what are the things? Do we do businesses where we are honest to ourselves? How is our mindset? Do we create a system? Do we create a system to build our small trade that becomes systemic, where the approach where you'll be able to put your money together somewhere together and make it more valuable and make that trade more valuable? Do we do some of these things? So those are the things we look at. Then you look at it, look at presently, look at it. Some 2019 to 2020, 2018 to 2020, before the COVID, a lot of investors came to Africa. Why? They came to invest their funds. Because they usually say that Africa is gold mine. There are a lot of diamonds. There are everything in Africa. So when you come to Africa, you put your $100. In the next 1 year, you make over $1 million. And some of them came here and they burnt their hands. They had to burn out, most of them, their money. But the ones that are thriving because they are system. So it is not for an African man to go somewhere to go and get money to venture, to invest into his business, to invent infrastructure. But what is his mindset? What is his attitude? How does he approach the environment or the infrastructure you have, or some of these things we have? We said in Nigeria we don't have infrastructure, but businesses are thriving. Some of the businesses are thriving in Africa, in Nigeria here. If you go to some of the African countries, they don't have infrastructure, businesses are thriving. So what is making that business to thrive? So those are the things we have to look at. When you look at those things, I think before we start looking at the money, that's why me, in most cases, I don't look at the money especially, but the money is like what Coach David talked about, said. Money was created by man. Your mindset cannot be created, is not created by man. Your attitude is not created by man. Some of these things are innate abilities, are innate, that inside of you. So it is the man that created the money, it's the man that created the policies, it's the man that created the practices, it's the man that understands how the economy becomes this and the economy will grow. So it has to be you, the man, have to start looking your environment and systemize your environment, put a structure, put the right things. And over time, you yourself, you start trading among yourself. And before you know it, your money has value. Even in spite of all that, they don't want to recognize your money. Your money is going to have value.
Yeah,
So
look,
yeah, thank you very much.
no, thank you so much. I'll come back to you. I'll tell you a quick. Of course, in a second, Coach, you give me 1 second. I want to go through Aaron Mansell's amazing comments as well. I'll tell you a funny reality. The day I decided that the naira is a basket. Never again for any. Never again. Anything but the naira. You know, you talk about 1981, Dr. Leslie, when the naira was more valuable than the pound, than the dollar, right? So I left Nigeria, said in '87. And you know what? When I left Nigeria, my granddad gave us, me and my sister, a suitcase full of money. Suitcase, literally suitcase full of money. We thought, you know what, we're gonna be rich. We're gonna be well. We were so happy because Granddad was a rich man. It's not as I was putting out. Are you with me? So him giving us a suitcase of thousands of pounds, no, was not unrealistic. You know what, people? When we converted that money, we barely got £100 from a suitcase full of naira. That's when I decided never again. I'll never be mugged off again with naira. Naira, I've run. Even today, when I get clients in Nigeria, offer me naira, I'm like, no chance. I'm not doing it. I'm just not. I'm just not.
Emmy, can I just tell you? Can I just say something? It's interesting, and Dr. Leslie, thank you so much. I'm going to connect with you off the record. You broke many interesting paradigms right in my heart. You when I mean break record, that's what I mean. You broke some deep records with some of your illustrations. And I want to make a quick joke. What Eddie said, I'm laughing because it has happened to me before. Uh, uh, Three things quickly. I don't forget them. You mentioned a company whose CEO was Ahmad. I hope that they are this particular company you're talking about. I hope that their corporate color is not green, because if it is the company that you're thinking, you're not the first person they will do it to. And the problem is more than the man Ahmad. And by the way, the Ahmad is out of the business now. If it's that Ahmad, he himself cannot cope with the culture of that business. So that's to say to your bigger point, Docs, that we cannot afford to keep treating each other the way we are treating each other as Africans and expect a different result. We have eroded trust capital among ourselves. Trust the reservoir, and you would rather just the same way. And I'm laughing because just the same way Eni has been disappointed about the pound sterling versus the naira, in like manner, many Africans have been totally discouraged about intertrade among Africans. And you mentioned it in your first statement. The root of the African problem is competition, strife, rivalry. The African man comes into the room trying to be better than the other African man. If you work in the West, and any will bear me witness to this, the person who will destroy the African union in quotes in the West is a fellow African, particularly the closer to your tribe they are. I mean, everything is fine if you're the only black man in a group of other tribes until a fellow black man comes in. That fellow black man will introduce a leverage of power against you. I've seen this happen many times. And the smaller the amount of money, the easier it is for Africans to keep talking. Once the money crosses £1,000, they begin to fight each other. When it crosses £10,000, they want to sell each other off. At £100,000, they are daggers drawn. The black man has a psycho-emotional state to money that goes beyond the ethos, pathos, and all the Aristotelian oaths of knowledge and life and anything. Once money is involved and the money is big, and whatever will make the African to be bigger than the other African, the African man will do. The other point I'd like to make as a consonant point is that my dad told me something, a doctor. I don't know whether you can unmute your microphone for a minute. In the 80s, my dad said, that, and to prove that that's the backward integration, sir. My dad said that
Okay.
if somebody knocks on your door at 10 p.m. in the 80s, you will open the door. Once they mention their name, that I'm Joseph, this all over the southern western part of Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once your name is Joseph, they will sleep well. That's what he told me. I was born at the turn of the just before the 1980 mark. But he said that in the 60s, 70s, much more. And the early 80s, 181 thereabout, he said if you knock the door and say your name is Josiah something, you don't need any other credential. A Christian family, you can't knock 3 doors in the late 70s and they won't allow you come in for the night. And then you're going to have dinner, whatever they are eating, you sing Christian hymn together and sleep. My father said by the 90s, even if you say your name is Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and you came with Peter, Mary, and John, and all the artifacts of the cross and the crucifix, that better get a damn gun. Say, what do you say your name is? G what? My dad said, you better take a damn gun and clear the guy's head off. And you see, there's a
Agree.
correlation. That's what the man said. There's a correlation between the sanctity and the attitude on the ground of the heart. The things you said are man-made attitude, internal culture, we treat each other versus the currency. As we distrusted each other more, the currency went lower. And that's a factor of the currency of trust rather than the currency of good character. Sir, I have done business with a few Rwandans. It will shock you. If a Rwandan man tells you that meet me at 7 o'clock, he's there at 6:30, totally apologetic that he might have been late, that you might have been there early. If you're not careful, you do the meeting before the stipulated time. That is, if you happen to come at 6:45, you may finish the meeting by 7:10 and both of you on your way. Beautiful time culture in Rwanda. If a Rwandan tells you that this is what's on ground and this is the amount of money, if you go around, the price variations in the market for that service will not be more than plus or minus a certain margin. In Nigeria, 2 shops can sell the same product, same quality, same thing for you at $1,000 difference if you care to. So what's the bigger point? I'm trying to say the things you said this evening is the only way to go. We cannot hope to do anything big without solving the developmental issues. Before we even get to development, who are we as a people? How do we treat each other? Let me drop a last bombshell. There's a whole, and Aaron said, talk, no action. The problem is that those who are taking action lost their money. They don't want to, that's what Annie said. If you do too much action, it's only angels that run. It's only fools that run where angels fear to tread. If you run anyhow into Africa, that's what the doc said. Africa is land of gold and plenty. Enter anyhow. Your dollar will disappear, no matter how big it is. However, if you know who to talk to, by the same way, the same CEO you're talking about, if it's the one I'm thinking about, was with another brand that was called Yellow some years back, and he did amazing work there. I was one of his staff. I rolled out for him his network. He did remarkably well. Interesting man. But in another context of another business, you're not the first person to saying different things. I'm sorry I made the example of him, but what's the bigger point? We cannot run away from how we treat each other and the character. And this is my own model now going forward. I look at people and I test them in measured bits and pieces. I learned it from my dad. We do a 100 naira transaction, I'm watching you. So that we know what is the variation. There's a very rich, successful entrepreneur who never hired the wrong CEO. The man is in his 90s now. If I mention, people will know him. He never hired the wrong CEO any. If I mention his name, you probably know him. He never hired one wrong CEO, and he's done business in Nigeria for 50 years. In fact, I just noticed that all of the CEOs were star talents. They were lovely people. So I asked him, how do you hire? What's your philosophy? He said, listen, when you come into the room as a CEO, you're going to work for me. Your CV speaks about your strengths. He said, I'm not interviewing you for your strength, I'm interviewing you for your weaknesses. He said, and in 10 minutes conversation to 15 to 30 minutes conversation, I'll find out your weaknesses. I'll now ask myself whether I can live with that weakness. If you're going to steal money, I will tell HR as you're going, say, this one, take notes, will steal money. So get a strong CFO to work with him. He's going to work well for us. But anytime we sleep off for 30 seconds, our money is gone. He said there's another one that came that he told the and the guy worked for them, and eventually it was financial misappropriation that made him to leave eventually. He said another one, he told the chief of HR, he said, this one you're looking at now, in this organization, he will sell our business secret to our competitor the day he's angry. That was precisely why he was made to leave eventually, many years after. I don't know many years they didn't think about it as a big deal until he did a big one that the group chairman said he had to go. I study for people's calibrations. Some people cannot be trusted once we cross 10,000 pounds mark. Some people are okay when they do £100 business with you. You don't see their anger, you don't see their irritation, you don't see their body language, you don't see any of those things. They are nice and kind people. You do £1,000 business with them, they are very kind. Once you cross £15,000, the same guy will start giving you conditions. His body language will change as give people measured, and that's how to choose your partners into the future. You will watch. Not what people tell me, because people lie about people. People call up. That's what I'm not about Africans. I see Dr. Leslie just spoke now. I'll go and meet any. Dr. Leslie is a very arrogant man. Can't see the way he's talking. Who does he think he is? And I'll begin to sow all sorts of nonsense mouth. For whatever reason, there's an economy of rumors, hoping that one day any will give me opportunity that should come to Dr. Leslie. Or because I saw Michael with NS. Don't see Michael is looking, he's squinting, he's not got to be trusted. And I saw all of that nonsense in his heart. Why? And meanwhile, I'm not good enough for the job. Okay, any now trust me and gives me the job, then I begin to disappoint any, and any thinks all Africans are bad. So what do? I don't listen to what people say about people. I will for myself observe. And the last point is that at the end of the day, so people shout all the time, oh, give us opportunity. Like I said, Ramasela wrote something that the downtrodden, that nobody wants to give weaker people in society opportunity. Are you sure? Go talk to Nigerian entrepreneurs who took money to Nigeria. I can tell you my own personal stories. There are people who you give and say, oh no, I can do the job. They will do all sorts. Then when you give them the job, you now get an Arabian or a South African. How did manufacturing industry go to Indians in Nigeria? I can tell you the story. Nigerians were not delivering. I worked in the manufacturing sector. Nigerians in the year 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I saw a company in Ilupeju changed all their staff in 4 years. I was just a young project manager. We're building infrastructure for them. And I saw, so one day I approached the group MD, not the chairman. Why your engineers are now, because I started engineering, they're being for me, they're all these Rakesh and Franita. What about we good Nigerians? Why? He laughed. He said I should see him in his office tomorrow. He has to give me a 2-hour lecture. I said, for real? I said I made a mistake. So I came to his office. He opened his laptop and we projected on the screen. He began to show me behavioral patterns, Nigeria after Nigeria, on the particular, I think was chief infrastructure engineer for the entire factory at Ilupeju. What happened? Nigeria number one, Nigeria number two. Guys, I will grow old here and they will still send me home without any emolument. So he brought the first Indians record. 6 weeks. You saw his project charts. 8 weeks. He asked me, he said, you're the one who has been rolling out infrastructure for us as a contractor. I work with the contractor who was rolling infrastructure for them. Would you prefer, honestly, in terms of response, if you send mail to a Nigerian at 5:30, he says he's closed, and India will respond at 2 a.m. Prakesh, say, dear David, he's already calling me, dear David. You know, they speak in English, not English. You have to listen double. Say, dear David, what do you think about the matter? And the first 3 sentences they say is clear. From there, the meaning is not clear. So I say, hey, Prakesh, can you please help me slow down and say it one by one? So he will say one by one. Tomorrow morning, these are the list of items. So the guy is thinking about tomorrow morning, but the Nigerian sleeps off at 5. He tells me that I can't mail him at 5:30. Now, if I was I'm a contractor. You can see the notch in my voice. I have to control myself. Someone says I'm shouting. I have to control myself. And that is an entrepreneur who puts his money in Ilupeju. Today, the wealth of Ilupeju is the industrial estate of Lagos, one of the major, first foremost industrial estates in Lagos. Anybody can go there and visit. The wealth of Nigeria in terms of manufacturing is already in the hands of Indians. Take it from me. I spoke at the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi in Ikoyi, I think the year 2022, I think, no, 2020. You will be shocked at what Indians are packing out of Nigeria. I saw that communist shift.
Sorry, Mr. Coach David. It is not only in
Yes.
Lupeju. In Nigeria right now, in most of the African countries, from Rwanda, other parts of the African countries, managed by the Indians because of their time management. Management.
They're not only that, sir. It will shock you how an Indian will kill him or herself when there's problem. So next time, sir, if you're the entrepreneur, I would say, Prakesh, do you have anybody you can bring for me? There's a supply chain position. So let me ask my brother from the other company who's going to. Before you know, they'll bring a Pranita. They will all support Pranita all night to solve that problem all day. They're small keyboards and they don't live flamboyant lives. They just go and buy one. There's one counter mill called Tata. When you see the car, you get angry because of the number of people that are inside the car. The guy's like at that time they have shape. It's like a cube of sugar shape. Doctors are. Then you see them, all of them driving it. A Nigerian just has a good job of 2 million naira per month. He'll go and order Prado. On top of that, he doesn't deliver the deliverables. So if I'm a Nigerian who this is a money I borrowed, capital is shy and scarce. I employ you as my employee. Dear fellow Nigerian, you begin to give me these things. They say I close at 5. I don't talk to nobody. Even chairman can come at 5:30. Then I get an Indian who the guy is dead. In the middle of the night, he's dead on his desk. In the morning, he's there. If you do meetings with India to amaze you, you close with them at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I did an SAP implementation for a company in the manufacturing sector. We finished project meetings at 12. These Indian boys were seated at 7 a.m., seated like nothing happened. No, only because I was the project manager, I was the only one in the room. Until 7:30, a meeting that we said would start 10 minutes to 7. Indians were seated at 7. The chief of supply chain was seated. Now, what you said about time management, they will kill themselves to solve a problem. But if you're Nigerian, you got once you pay the first check, it was good until you pay him the first installmental check. You'll not be doing like his grandfather is the one that owns the whole of the lagoon. So these are my points. And until we change those fundamental things, even if Nigeria will not give the opportunity in Nigeria, no matter how good you are. The guy, he has been burnt many times by trusting his kinsmen. The last point is summary. The closer you are to me as a family member, you can beat me, you can throw guns at me. The more rigorous I will interrogate you. I'm not going to the point where I say I'll not give you the job. I'm going to interrogate you. I will throw you through the process. I have a process. Call me wicked if you might. I've been burnt by the closest of persons. There are people who I gave opportunities to personally, and they made sure they under-delivered so that I could be sacked and they could take over the position. How about the ones I took to places? And look, I'm just at my level. I took them to organizations, and they work with the organization to oust me from those things, thinking they will give them the role. They run into big problems, and then the organization come back and show me reports written by the person I introduced on high-stakes environments. I've introduced Indians, I've introduced Chinese people, and today, when I mail them once, we are still friends. They give me information, we become stuff. This is big for Africans. We cannot work together with each other. And the person that gave them the opportunity, they want to cut him off. These are the things that just what Doc has said. By the way, this thing should be framed, put into CD for every African to listen to. Maybe in our day we'll find quick answers that can. But Rwanda is doing well. Rwanda is doing very well. Go to Rwanda, you'll be amazed, amazed.
It sounds like, say you and Dr. Leslie are clearly advocating for Rwanda. And
no, my experiences in Rwanda are stellar experiences.
No, but if you look at it like what somebody just wrote now, I think Oromusele, he talked about behavioral challenge with the economy and infrastructure. I think I most cases, the Nigerians, we have this entitlement mentality, especially the Nigerians. And honestly, it is not just only the Nigerians that are like this, even some part of the African countries.
the Kenyans, there's something that Dr. Coach David said about paying them. Once you pay them once, suddenly you have to fire them. That's what I find when I have contractors. I mentioned Arthur earlier.
Small money makes them lose it. Small money.
Yeah.
But it's what we agreed, Dr. Les. It's what we agreed. You said that was going to make you work and achieve my goals. And some, maybe that's why me and everyone gets on, because as Coach David said, I'm always working. Call me at midnight, I'm here. Call me at 2 o'clock, I'm here. I'm always here, right? Let's go for Marceli's comments. And I want to get to Michael, then I want to come back to Coach. Of course, I'll give you a chance as well, Dr. Leslie. I want to come back to Coach to tell us a bit about the FinTech Black Box. So I think we need to know about what that book is saying and how it can help us. Grace, let me welcome you first. Grace and Ghana, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Great to have you here. Romusele, I think you should come in the studio, my friend. As you say, the elite do anything to empower the populace. It's true. This is who you are. I think that's your next comment, right? It's who you are in Africa.
Yeah, I agree.
So what is $20 has multiple price based on who you are, and that's the truth, right? You know, I mean, we can't go on like
Parallel, parallel
but
markets.
the
So
parallel
any,
market, but yeah, for me, I think for me, I just believe that what one of the things we should start looking at, especially in Africa, we're looking at internally. We have to start look at our character. I don't see the reason when you have this behavioral pattern, this pattern that is so common with the Africans, where we just sit back and look and like you talked about the Indians. For me, if I work with the India, I get tired with the Indians. I must say the truth. They work 18, 17 hours a day. Though sometimes we look at it, I appreciate the way they work. But one good thing is this is you work with purpose, which they have. So if I'm in Nigeria, why am I working? Working to feed my family? If it is working to feed my family, how about the future? Do I have that kind of goals? You know, sometime in Africa, when you talk about the goals, how you set your goals, how you do this, how you do, they say, oh God, no, they talk that one. People don't agree, they talk with it, no make sense. Yes, people they hungry, they talk with it don't make sense. But the fact is this, we have to start look maybe some of us need to be exposed to some of these parts. And that is why sometimes entrepreneurship is really education. It's a thorough education for you to a thorough, self-approval for self-growth and self-performance and entrepreneurship. Because it will help you, it will bring out the character in you and also see your flaws where you're able to, where you know that, oh, okay, I can't perform this, or you cannot do this. You see your level of competence, and also you see everything, the great areas about mediocrity. When you're not good at something, you're not good at something. You will see the reason why people talk about leadership, where you delegate, where people become responsible. They see themselves knowing what they ought to do. Some persons are not like that. Imagine if I'm working with somebody. Why will I wake up? If I'm working with somebody, I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, I go to work in at the end of the month, they pay me 120,000, 100,000, or 50,000, so like that. Sometimes I show carelessness to the way I show carelessness to I show that carelessness too. Sometimes why? Maybe because the way they treat me in the workplace, at the workplace. Then it all depends how you start looking at it, because we have to, every time we have to talk about re-education. We have to talk about people's character. We have to talk about who are you. Imagine somebody is paying you $20, for example. You go to Upwork, you go to Upwork, an Indian man will work for you, design and everything for $20. But when you have an African man in Nigeria, a Gambia, a Ghana, it will tell you that, I'll increase the money now. But we agreed on something. We
yeah,
agreed on something. So
yeah,
it ought to be that way. That's the see when you learn to be transparent, when you learn to be honest, transparent, it affects your thinking. You see yourself responsible for everything that happens to you. For me, every day I keep saying it. It is not the economy that is our problem. It is not because of the infrastructure or the economy that's the biggest problem of Nigerians, particularly of Africans. The problem is the way they think and the way they look at things. An African man does not have long-term plan, long-term goals. Okay, we have the youth in Nigeria right now. I'm not talking about the Tinubu, what do we call it, Tinubu regime or whatever I call himself. I don't care about that. But what I'm talking about here is the youth per se. Are they are we looking at, are they looking at somewhere where they will be able to grow themselves someday, to grow something that they will own it, or they will grow something that will impact the society or impact the community? Are they thinking about that? If they're thinking about that, what are they waiting for? Yes, we need money. We need to get money. We need to get money. But the truth is this: most times there are some little things that we can do with our knowledge, our expertise, our experience that will attract opportunity, that will attract monetary value to us. So what are we looking at? So we not until start thinking thoroughly and start looking inward. Like for example, if I have a business with anybody, first thing I do here is this. I usually think about the other side. Which is the other side? Let me not disappoint this person. If I disappoint this person, what happens next? What is the next? Like for example, I just talked about the company, the Neste and the Ahmad.
they,
Ahmad.
they, they won't,
I would,
that's what I say. They won't come back and they won't pay us again. That's the
yeah,
result. Disappointment.
yeah. I
And
mean, so. So we have to start looking at ourselves and look at what exactly, and like an African man is not thinking of how to improve his skills, how to improve his communication, how to improve his environment, then how do you grow? How do you thrive when you don't think about it? When you always look at it that the government has to do that for you.
You see,
In entrepreneurship, for example. Mm.
that's Leslie, part of
Now,
me, and I agree with you. See, like, the African man, I mean, I disagree with you. Let me say that instead. The African man,
okay.
The Africans I employ, they think of their skills, but there's different skills. They're thinking of the begging skills. They're thinking of the skills how to get more money today without doing anything more. That's what
And
they
how
think.
and how to rob you of that capital.
That's thievery, right? You can't do less and want more. That just doesn't work. Anyway, it's not going to work anyway. But we
Mm.
see it all too often. Look, let me go to some more comments that later, then of course I'll come back to everyone. So Ramonselli, I agree with you entirely, my friend. We know what is right, but we never do it. We can only try from our own structures. See, again, that is so true. And as you're just saying, Dr. Leslie, sometimes I think we need that eye opening, which sometimes only comes from going out to the diaspora, sadly. But those who go to the diaspora, like me, like Coach David, like Michael, you can have a job getting us to come back because the things don't work the way they ought to, the way they could, the way that really helps all of us. So Marcelo says businesses are thriving in Africa due to political affiliation. It's who you know. That's what it's who you are, right? It's not what you can do, and that can't be a way for us to live. It just can't be the way for us to live. So Emeka, thanks for joining us. I'm so glad you were here listening. Says well done, Coach David. Yeah, that's on your book, I think, Coach David. Which book? I should ask, right? You got several books. So now let's talk about your latest one that's coming out so that we're going to work on and launch next month, right? So thank you so much, Emeka. I'm glad you're here. And Marcelo says we're not ready. I continue to say it. It's so sad. Oh, I love this one. Marcelo says shops have been burnt in Lagos market because the owners sold below the market rates. That's just one reason in Monselli. Again, I tell the story often. When I was young, my granddad, I remember one day we're looking at our compound at our uncle's timber yard across the road. Big timber yard, huge timber yard, supplied across the country. The problem is that Uncle Shaka died. He left two sons, twins, two sons. These sons could not agree how to split inheritance. What did they do? They burnt the whole thing down. That was the solution. They burnt it down to a crisp. The African mentality is ridiculous. That's just, I remember saying that. If you know how true that is, clearly you do. I'm saying, but that is the problem that we have. We must fix these problems. When Coach is saying is the people, when Dr. Leslie says it's the people, that's what the way we think is odd. It's very odd. Dr. Emeka says, economy of rumors. I tell you, it's not the truth, right? It's always good to listen to Coach David. You will be glued. Yeah, that's why he's here, my friends. That's why he's here. I'm blessed to have friends like Coach David. So honestly, it's an absolute delight learning from his deep insights into what matters. Please make sure you buy his book. If you haven't bought his book, Prophetic Ecosystem
and Dynamics.
That's book number 3. There's book number 1 and 2 that you have to buy as well, my friends. So do check it out for sure. Check them out. And then the latest one, the financial, the fintech black box. That's the latest one, right? So they say the behavioral changes also based on infrastructure and economy impact. What's happening to education? This is again, you hit nail on the head, everyone said it. We have so many problems to fix. The dollarization is not our biggest issue. Infrastructure, yes. Our economy, they're done in the doldrums. Our education, as Dr. Lacey was just talking about, it's not non-existent because now the education is what got me here. It's what got all of us here. And the weirdest thing is that when I left Nigeria, When I came to UK, I knew more than the British kids did. I knew more than some unknown reason. I knew more. I could speak better English than British people can. Today, my wife will tell you, Amy is the whitest person I know because I'm more British than all the British people. But that comes from education. That's got me this far. I'm saying the same education is what our children in Africa get. How they're not using it more to fix our problems? I don't know. I wish I knew really. Marcelo says, I did international business. What's the general culture and approach to life? It takes a massive personal shift to come out of the feet of these feet. It truly does, truly does. The people, we must change as people, my friends. That's the point. The culture in Japan, China, and Germany are like generational trends. They're really they're light years away from what we do in Africa, my friends. This is the point. Marcelo, I wish you come on stage and talk to us. So Dr. Emeka says this is a real challenge for me as an individual and as a nation. Remember my post on grits today? Yeah, go and check it out. I got to connect with Emeka for sure, right? They're the best learned in school early. I agree, but my practice has destroyed our systems. It's true, so true. It's so true. Now, Mudukwe, thank you for joining us too. She says lack of trust is our problem. I agree. Yes, you do need to come in the studio, Ramasele. It looks like I'm against. No, you're not against the panel. I think because I know you're a Marcelo, because I know that you're in diaspora as well. I know you see things clear as day. So I'm on your side for sure, my friend. I'm truly, and it's such a frustration. So it says because I'm from that, I decided to do growth above these. Let's trace this root cause. Where did Africa time come from? Yeah. See you tomorrow. Later. 7 o'clock, right? Now, see the situation that about the civil service. So God help us. And the most unproductive sector, the most unproductive sector in Nigeria. God help us indeed. I don't say that lightly, right? Everyone must be an entrepreneur, but any future-minded person should have entrepreneurial mindset. When I look, this is when I choose who works for me, it'd be so nice to have people with entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneurial mindset, it means they take responsibility. That was said earlier by Dr. Leslie, I think. They want to create value. They want to give solutions that the customers need. They think as if the business is theirs. So they do whatever it takes. Coach Davis mentioned how the Indians take, they have an entrepreneurial mindset. Whatever it takes, they would do it. If only we had more people who could do this, rather than want to take your pay in the first month and then suddenly start going backwards. They start doing less and less and less, and they want more and more and more. That's ridiculous. That's not entrepreneurial mindset. You have to create more to get more. You'll never get paid more unless you're willing to do more. That's a fact, my friends. That's a fact. I could go on. I really not say there's many more amazing comments. Work Nesh, I see you. I'm glad you're here. Dr. Coach David, you're funny. Emeka, Amy's Nigerian, but also very British. I'm British. I rather claim my Britishness. Unless it comes to food, my friends, food now. Oh, my jollof rice is waiting for me. I'm saying food. Nigerian food is everything. I will cross the country, which I have done, to go get Nigerian food from someone who cooks it for me, right? Oh, and I don't know you're Nigerian. Stop being funny, because I'm Nigerian. But I'm Nigerian in culture. I'm Nigerian in half my beliefs, but the other half is firmly rooted in being British, where I was born. I can't change that. It's how it is, right? Right, my friends, I've talked way too much. Michael, you've been quiet way too long. Talk to us. What's your take, my friend?
Sorry, I knew you could give me a moment there. Um, what your two guests have indicated is largely it's everywhere in Africa. It doesn't matter which part of Africa you go to. Um, there are there. I do not know how high up on the list this de-dollarization is with respect to doing business in other countries and doing business with with other countries. Um, in terms of in terms of what is most important and in consideration of everything else that's going on in Africa, where does this the de-dollarization topic stand? Um, it's critical. We can have a good conversation, but where does it stand in terms of what we got to do next, or what should come next, or what order of things, what order should things be done, and should it be done simultaneously with other things? I'm more interested in that right now because everything said by the gentlemen's, yeah, it's right. I mean, all over Africa, it's the same story. Um, and even if you have one country like Rwanda that may be doing perfectly well, I'm pretty sure there are other countries such as Botswana is- are the same way. Um, and I'm not so sure about South Africa. I'm not so sure about any other country actually, because they all, as far as I'm concerned, they're all in the same boat as Nigeria. And I'm not so sure right now about Burkina Faso, although in the past it used to be in the same boat. But right now, I do not know. It's changing, and that's an example of where things are changing. And it would be nice to take a look at them and see how they are performing and how they are moving forward, because they're quite literally bringing their own country into the future, a potential future for Africans. Looking at them and what they're doing, I think is highly important, um, because it's going to, at some point, it's going to reflect what other Africans do. My other big concern is what DRC president has invited, has currently invited into Africa, or into his own country, or he's playing with it, so to speak, right now. And that is the invitation of United States private businesses to come in and mine all they can mine in Africa. And yeah, they've got ways in it to get it from Zaire all the way to the ocean. They're building railway in order to be able to do that. I didn't even know that project was going on, but apparently it's been in the works for quite a while. So you're going to see a lot of influence, American dollar influence in Zaire, which means that it's also going, and that's going to percolate around all the other countries in Africa, because they're going to be at the center of Africa, manipulating and throwing their dollar around to skew whatever plans we've got. Those are my thoughts right now.
Deep thoughts, Michael. And I say I would love someone to give us some idea about your primary question. So Molly, I see you as well. Thanks for being here. Molly says Africans must learn to love and buy African-made products. I agree with you entirely.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Any quick question though?
Imperative that manufacture what she needs food. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Go on, coach.
What's the first question?
Where does de-dollarization rank in terms of our problems and the solutions that we need to create a more
It is
prosperous
top.
Africa?
It is top. It is top 10% problems that we need to solve. I love the question because it's a compound question. It's a compound problem to solve. It now has many legs to it. Molly Shobola just gave us one of the very powerful ones. Africa needs to begin to do inter and intra African trade. We need to start intra growing what we need. What we need. I mean, you don't need, and there's a lot. I try to avoid that part. And thank you for bringing up Molly. I try to avoid it because I don't want to compound the conversation. But there's a lot of crave, and Doctor mentioned it earlier. A lot of crave that is beyond meaning around the dollar. For example, on the streets. I mean, somebody that is, somebody that is frying corn. You say, they say dollar is expensive, therefore increase the price of corn. So I'm asking very critical questions. I know how that affects your cost of production, but can you please explain it to me? She could not articulate it. I just want to buy mouth organ. Mouth organ is what we call corn in Lagos. I just want to buy mouth organ. It's a hot afternoon, I pack, and then you charge me what I used to buy for, let's say, 200 naira. You charge me 500 naira just like that. Just 3 days interval. I'm sure your cost of production hasn't been impacted by these dollars. I say, Oga, share up with dollar to one. Oga, don't you know that dollar is now very high up there? Oga means boss. I'm like, no. Can you explain it to me? I took me some time. She didn't understand it. So there are many people in South Africa who just have deduced understanding about this dollar thing and they don't know what it's about. And so they just hike prices anytime they say dollar is up. They probably didn't hear the full details of how much the dollar don't rise. Thank you, Mosele. They just hike it. So that's to tell you that there's a craze on foreign products and foreign goods and services, and things are foreign. We need to reorientate ourselves that African goods are good. That's on one side. The other side is that African goods must be good. I mean, somebody started an a Nigerian automobile factory just to assemble the automobile in Nigeria. What began to happen was that the car was disintegrating on the express. I mean, just imagine you start from your house, and by the time you get to Lagos Island, you don't see your bumper anymore. From there, your tail light is gone, and then the next time the wiper is off. So after driving the car for like 1 year, oh sorry, 1 year, maybe 6 months, things are off the car, and that's how he died natural death. The quality of production on the streets of whatever is made in Nigeria is not doomed to made in Nigeria. The quality of products and services is not doomed to made in Nigeria. And I'm sorry I'm saying that. Many times I've tried to buy made in Nigerian products, and then I didn't get value for money. Although there are fashion designers on the streets of Lagos that I'm personally fighting with. The word is fight. I'm telling the guy, can you have a website? Can you go on Temu? Can you, because the guy is good. I still intend to get Annie and Michael some very good stuff. Once I get your size, I'm going back to Africa. I'm going to make sure I get you some nice, well kitted kind of African stuff. The kind you see me putting on there. There's some very talented tailors. They just look at your stature and your picture, and they craft the fashion. When the Bible says, "No one fashion against you shall prosper," the fashion against you, and you're excited when you see yourself. Now, those guys don't have website. They're not known anywhere. And I've been to shops in South Africa, in what's that place in South Africa now? Just out of my mind. Central Business Area. Michael, remind me, in South Africa. Something City.
Okay.
I've been to guys in Santin City who are, fashion designers. They are not as talented as these my boys in Lagos. Remarkable guys. They just love that they go and buy. Say, okay, I'm going to buy fabric on the island, and then they sew for you 2-3 things, and then they are fine with some small. Say, can you please begin to mass export this? Many people need you all over the world. So there's also the perception and all the business artifact element, apart from the quality of the product and service itself, and not wanting to cut corners. Like we said, it seems as if the African man is very happy. He's successful at the first 1,000 customers. By the time he gets to the second, thank you, made in Aba shoes. I use some made in Aba shoes. My mom used to travel to Aba at some point to buy us shoes as a growing up person. Man, some of those shoes were heavy. You picked the international shoes and you picked the Abba made instead. What has happened to that entire effort? How good are we exporting it? And if you're exporting it, it's the factory and the CEO of the factory is okay until he sells 10,000 copies of the shoe. Then he'll go and marry a third wife. Then he'll go and buy there's G Wagon, there's also Z Wagon. He won't buy G Wagon, there's G Wagon, H Wagon, I Wagon. That's my own creation. All those ones are my own models. The guy goes to buy Z Wagon, and then begins to live larger than life, and then the business collapses. In fact, there's a whole body of knowledge that says all over the world, there's no African business, no serious African business that goes beyond the 100-year mark. Those that go beyond the 200-year mark are totally in existence. The ones that go beyond above the 100, your father did the business, your grandfather did business. Now, the son, yeah, there were many replicas, but however, they were very good. What we are saying is that the industry has not moved to 2.0, no 2.0, no 3.0, no evolution. So we have many talented people that come in Africa, they start something, they spark. I can give you many industries I've observed like that. Look at what is happening in Nollywood. We did well, we rose very sharp. They said Africa and Nollywood and Afrowood is now number 3 in the world next to what do you call the Indians now? There's Indiewood,
Bollywood.
Bollywood. They said Hollywood number 1, Bollywood number 2. Then they said Afrowood and Afri-Nolly or something like that. The African thing also came up, but I'm watching that industry quietly, and it's not progressing. What is the solution? Again, Africa needs to be temperate with success, because you sold the first 1,000 copies or 3,000 copies. And the best way to see this is now musicians. Beyond the first 1,000 copies, beyond the second 1,000 copy, beyond the third 1,000, when you begin to scale into the millions, be temperate to partner, be temperate to go international, be temperate and be willing to lose some part of your shares to grow global. Begin to think about scalability and think about bigger problems. Okay, Natalie says, yeah, war. Yeah, but even the peaceful places, I agree with you, though, that Africa has a lot of things trying to, destabilize it always. But even the peaceful places where there's no war, the kind of wars we are doing against ourselves is very, very heavy. Yeah. Emeka says something. Let me just a joke. He said, the person cannot recognize dollar when he sees one. This person selling corn, he was telling me that corn has increased because of dollar. The person sees dollar may not even know what it is. Thank you. We need to begin, and thank you for that, Molly. We need to begin to Africanize services. I need to do business with my brothers in Kenya. We need to do business with Rwanda, with South Africa. Look at what Leslie says. It's not doing business in Nigeria, but it's more comfortable in Rwanda. That's a good one. And if you know the opportunities in Africa, you won't believe the untapped resources. People are going to the West. There are many opportunities for business in Africa, but can we really organize ourselves? That's the problem.
That really is a problem. I think, Molly, thank you so much. We need to export more, but we need to feed ourselves first. We need to sort ourselves out first, right? We need to create those businesses that you talk about in the Coach David, the businesses that last, that export, that create value, that actually create something sustainable. This mentality of feed myself and that's it, I'm fine. That's all there is to life. It's unsustainable. It's not going to work. I think we need to genuinely begin to think bigger than we currently do.
Can I just say, sorry, I cut into you, Annie. So recently, I do cybersecurity. I was thinking about cybersecurity deeply, and I stumbled on Afro cybersecurity. I was looking at the future. This is what keeps me awake at night. How will the nations of the earth be attacked in the coming days and years? What are the vulnerabilities all over the world? How are governments thinking? Those are the kind of things I bother my head about in the middle of the night. Now listen to this, and the question just came to me: if the servers are all European and British and Indian and Chinese, what are you cyber securing?
Yes.
What are you cyber securing? I'm scaling Molly's argument to something very big. That look, we cannot be speaking on foreign devices. You understand? And
we must create our own. We must create our own legacies. tools and systems. And
God bless you. Afro sovereignty. Afro sovereignty is key.
I think, but see, to do that, Coach David, it's not just creating. This is one of the elephants in the room. We must learn to buy those solutions. The reason the African man is struggling because we don't buy from each other, because we think too small. We don't want to invest. We don't think. Now, you mentioned collaboration just now, Coach David. We don't think, how can I build a bigger business? How can I serve more people? How can I turn this into a legacy business that will last generations, right? It's all of those. It's all of those things. There's no point in me making something and Dr. Leslie creating amazing systems, amazing solutions, and no one's going to buy it. And people don't, because what this crazy thing about money. I've made $10. Oh, coach, I must keep it. I must keep it that's all the $10 I'm ever going to have in the world. If you think like that, that's all you're going to have in the world. Whereas if you think, how do I grow this $10? The point that Leslie made earlier. We can build sustainable African economies. At the heart of this I'm going to come back to you, Coach David, to tell us about your fintech black box. So at the heart of this question, Michael, as well, the answer is we need to build our economy. We need to grow our economies. We need growth. That's how we're going to sustain ourselves. That's how we're going to build the currency that will go beyond our villages. Now, the currency that's actually going to sustain African economies. If we don't start doing that, guess what? We're going nowhere. Everyone said that. I love your point about yam earlier. I'm going to try and find it. The whole of Nigeria couldn't manage yam exploitation. Isn't that the truth? Nat, welcome as well. Natalie says, our leaderships line their pockets and safety deposit boxes, usually overseas, by the way, in dollars and pounds, with a huge African exports industry. Africans have legal precedents to reclaim its heritage, institutions, and resources. We do, but we have to. I don't know. I said I won't get frustrated today. So, Coach, help us out, right? What does your fintech black box give us that is in addition to what we have and what we know?
Yes. What I did with fintech black box is to begin to look at the current and future trends in the world of finance and money. So many things are happening in the financial sector of the nations of the world, Africa inclusive, and many of us are not even aware. I like that Roman Sele. He says we are still importing toothpick. I mean, it's so sad. But I believe, and I know in our day, we can make things happen and we can begin to grow in a different way. Number one, I spoke in FinTech Black Box. I wrote after some deep research spanning about 6 months, and I have a whole big compendium of material that is not less than about 1,000 pages. And so out of that 1,000 pages was where I extracted this book from. This is just a summary of some deeper insights about the financial sector. Ultimately, all of the features about technology and its evolution are in these days an emergent future. Now, all of that future intelligence will dovetail into finance because at the end of the day, whatever kind of tech you're doing, insurtech, agro-tech, wind tech, agri-tech, whatever tech you're doing, you either have to pay for it or you'll be paid for it. That's why ultimately fintech is the last frontier. So I spoke in that book, I tried to break the code that will control monies of the world. The first one is the black box of wealth. Simply, no one will tell you about money, how fintechs are quietly taking over, and the rise of shadow banks, and all of that. If you see the book in the second chapter, I spoke about financial warfare, how these invisible banks are controlling the future quietly. And if you know how the warfare is happening, you know how to position yourself for wealth as an African and prevent yourself from being taken over. Now, there's opportunity within the emergent nascent, let me call the grammar. As things are evolving and things are happening, I'm seeing opportunity for the Afro financial construction. There is a big space for Afro financial construction, and that's one of the reasons why I use black box. why he was black. I love and the book itself physically is black. Although black is not a color I really like as a person, but I went with that because there is some answers from the black race, and I will share with you those answers in conclusion of this. But then, how neobanks are inventing the DNA of banking, and since the time of the Medici, if you know banking theory and the history of banking, since the time of the Medici, we're in a season where banking is being rewritten all over the world. The codes are being rewritten. What is banking is changing, and for the first time, real CBN governors are struggling with control of banks. There are things like quantum finance and the next financial arms race, DeFi, the meaning of it, and how this is decentralizing economies and the death of the middlemen across different structure. And so there's opportunity for the death of the dollar as a middleman because the internet is creating alternative connections in the world. The problem is it's too big and too vast, but one of these days, a middle point will also arise, either direct trade or which is what we are doing today, which is direct trade, but with each other. But the internet provides an opportunity for Africa to break these jinx we're talking about. There's also the tightrope of cybersecurity and the way cybersecurity will play in this game. And that rests on what Dr. Ademola said earlier on, Dr. Leslie said earlier on, and what he said earlier about trusts. If I don't trust your server, if I don't trust your, I mean, if I don't trust you, any, how will I trust your payment interface? And if it's an African interface I'm paying to, once it's not quick teller, and it's not one of the known ones like Flutterwave, who, by the way, is a creation of less than 10 years ago. There's a lot to do in that place. And then the next one is regulating the revolution and how will red tech work, because that's a big issue. How do we regulate so that nobody takes away the money? And by the way, I'm not a pro crypto person and blockchain because people are over applying it on money and there's room for a lot of opportunity for fraud the way it's being done today. That doesn't mean there's no opportunity for making real money there, but please be careful around those things because RegTech is having a difficulty catching up with that part of fintech. All right. Also, there is also the thinking of fintechs around the environment, where fintech meets the sustainability goals of the earth and how we must do financial innovation with respond to carbon and all of those things. And also what is going to happen in fintech between 2035 and beyond. The Fintech Horizon, that's chapter 10, and the leadership in the fintech, lessons from the greats, all the way from emotional intelligence, how Stripe rose, different things. You need to get a book. And then let me leave it at that so I didn't tell you everything about it. I've already run through the chapters anyway. But what is the big thing? Why I decided, because I studied the future across different sectors of human endeavor. But why did I decide to start from fintech black box? That is where the nerve control is. That's where the power center is. You control people's money, you control their lives, you control their emotions and psyche. If you understand what is going on in the financial frontiers or what's about to happen, you will easily position yourself for success. Molly says, your heart aches for our ancestors. Same here. I love Africa with a passion. And I hope that one of these days we are able to, wake up out of our slumber and solve these problems. They're not easy problems to solve, as sure as it is. I'm paraphrasing, I think, Madiba Nelson Mandela, who said, the sun will rise again tomorrow, and sure our problems will be there for us to still solve. Day after tomorrow, the sun will rise again and to set. Are we going to keep looking on, or shall we brace up ourselves and solve the part that we can? And that's one of the thinkings that brought FinTech Black Box to life. The secrets that we control global money. There's also some economic crash coming on in the world. This is what IMF, all of these guys are saying. Let me also warn that some of them are plotting these things anyway. But whichever way you think about it, you don't want to be caught without understanding the financial systems of the world and how that is playing out. And we are getting close to the day. I think it was what's her name now? What's her name? Narcisse. She said the other day. Her name just keep my mind now. Narcisse, yeah, that's her name, Narcisse. She said, your social pension will not be enough. Or it won't be enough. You got to put some other money aside for yourself for old age. Your social money, the social net's about to break. So you have to think about what you're going to do for yourself and your children. And that's why you need all of this financial intelligence around fintech. So, yeah, I hope I answered very quickly, Annie. I hope I didn't say too much jargon.
it's good for me, my friend. You know, look, and I agree with you. The money we need for our retirement is huge. The numbers are extraordinary because we live in so
Mhm.
much. And but people don't know that yet. I don't know why they know it. I go back to Marcella's point. We know what to do. We're just not willing to do it. We know what's right. We just don't want to do it. Well, we must change, my friend. Um,
Mhm.
actually, look, I agree with you. You know, this with our warmongering is, and that's it's something between neighbours, as Coach David said earlier. You know, we're fighting our neighbours and next village, next town. What are we playing at? What's wrong? Oh, man, it's so frustrating. You know, what she's saying, all that distracts us from the fact that Africa is an ancient and modern day Eden, all the way back from the eras of Timbuktu. I agree with you. You know, we have gold on our streets, but we don't see it. The same dust that they will see in Africa, in other countries, we create solutions. In the UK, I can't just tell you how many products we make from sand. Really, and we do. You know, never mind the gold in Botswana. I'm saying literally that we see what's there to help us, or we ignore it. Dr. Leslie, if you want to have a
This is
last
kind
minute,
of
want to have a minute, please, Dr. Leslie. Go, sorry, go, Michael.
Okay.
I was just
Okay.
about
Yeah.
to
I think.
say
Right.
that
Dr.
in
Yeah, go.
I was just about to say that what David indicated about the amount of money that we need. Um, we do not need that much money, huge sums of money for retirement or anything like that. We only need we only need what we need, just the basics, because in Africa we got almost everything that we need to live comfortably. Um, is you got to figure out how to make those items, just like you said, Annie. We already have what the world wants. What we got to do is figure out how to use it such that, in a manner that makes us comfortable and satisfied with our lives. It's under our feet. It's everywhere around us. We're surrounded by it. But we just got to, we need knowledge and understanding of the environment and how to use it, utilize it. We do not need money. Money is not that valuable. It's all the other stuff that's valuable, not money.
That's a
And
micro.
knowledge. And
It's a
knowledge
micro.
to apply it.
I try and agree
Mm.
with you, Michael. The problem we have is that technology is going to be part of our lives going forward, right? And also because we haven't built resources or wealth now, you don't want to get older and get old and still be struggling for money, however much, because you can't work to earn it, Michael. You need to start putting money away, building that wealth, as Coach David just talked about now. And because the world's evolving, our needs will evolve as well. And the healthcare is not cheap. Those are what keep us alive longer, Michael. If we don't,
Es-
we,
Especially,
It's it's it's
especially
it's
the
it's
old
all about
age,
it's
yeah.
all about
especially in old age.
it's all about
Mm.
African priorities. We've got to reconfigure our priorities such that these things that we find necessary cost less, a lot less.
Interesting.
Mm,
Interesting.
mm,
I can't
mm.
agree. Coach David, no, sorry, Dr. Leslie, please feel free. The mic is yours.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think I really want to go with what Mike has said. Though anyway, David spoke extensively, and Coach David spoke extensively. Michael just mentioned something that we don't really need money. Doesn't mean that we don't need money. I think he's talking about the basics. What are the basics? At first, Michael talked about, okay, what are the solution for us to um de-dollarize what do you call it? The international currency. How do we start use our local currency to recognize the currency and also use that same currency other African communities and all that? You just we just need to start thinking of how to create a system. The system comes from the way we think. The thinking comes from somebody talk about education. It has to do with the education. It has to be do with us. How exactly? Then David talked about um, fintech or some of these financial institutions understanding the trend, understanding the technology and also the trend. Now, the reason why Flutterwave is succeeding today, it is because of collaboration. That is why Flutterwave is succeeding today. Now, if you look at Stripe, Stripe did not come to Nigeria. Stripe did not come to Nigeria, not because they don't want to come to Nigeria, not because of the 419 thing. That is why they did not come to Nigeria. How do we collaborate with some of these small financial institutions? Just like what David said. What are the kind of system are we creating? Are we establishing? Are we with the 21st century banking technology practices? Are we part of that practices? Are we behind or are we ahead? If you look at Flutter is trying to be ahead. I mean, try to be ahead in Africa country. That is why they still remain the most innovative. So we have to look at so many. Somebody, I think, talked about generation. We can lead the next generation of industries. Yes, I wanted to talk that. I want to talk something about that before I forgot now. Before now, look at the Igbo. Look at the Igbo people. The Igbo people, they believe in this entrepreneurship, apprenticeship to entrepreneurship, just like the same thing with what the China people are doing. Just replicating almost the same to the China people are doing, almost the same culture, the same attitude, the same thinking. Now, after entrepreneurship, you have to start looking at, after apprenticeship, you have to start looking at entrepreneurship. Now, from the entrepreneurship, you need to understand leadership in it. Because when you want to succeed in establishing different kind of company, you must first of all understand leadership. You must have the character of a leader who knows how to work, how to practice entrepreneurship. But firstly, you start with what we have, which is what we call the apprenticeship. So the attitude is so important that we should start looking inward and start seeing ourselves that we have pool of talent in Africa and start thinking how we can interact with ourselves, how we can re-educate ourselves, how we can grow ourselves. Then I think Flutter Wave. Okay, so we have to start looking at that. Now let me give another example. I have a company, for example, Mr. A have a company in Nigeria and wants to establish in Ghana. It is difficult because of policies. It is difficult because of so many things apart from the policies. You see complexity will come in and all that. So what are the things, what are we doing that will have a free flow trade and also business transaction and relationship between ourselves before we start thinking of going beyond? So when those things are established, you will see so many things will start working. Like I said, from experience, it is difficult for you to become an entrepreneur in America. I mean, difficult for you to become an entrepreneur in Nigeria, in Africa, than to become an entrepreneur in Europe or America from experience. But if you know how to put up a system in Africa and you know what exactly you want, it is easier for you to make money in Africa than in America and Europe. So it has to be the way you understand the terrain and start seeing yourself putting the right thing. Like what someone said, I don't know if it's a Marcelo or somebody that talked about how the youths, that talked about our youths. Yes, our youths are actually we really have the people that are talented, who really wants to work, but they need to be re-educated. They need to start thinking of how, yes, I can use what I have, not what I get. I can use what I have to make what I want. Just like what Michael was talking about retirement. Retirement, you don't actually need too much money. You don't really actually need too much money. You just need to understand your purpose and also understand what exactly why. You just need to understand how you want to live your life and the little resources you have, how you will go with the resources that will sustain you to the time you desire. So they need to they need to be re-education among the African youths. They need to be they need to be that collaboration, that cooperation among the African youths or the Africans. There must be that interaction where, in spite of the language, there must be that interaction where we can connect with each other, where our languages speak our attitude, where our attitude speak our destiny. Once those things are put in place, it is easier for us to progress, and it's easier also for us to thrive, either in businesses, in career, in anything we desire. I think I want to stop there. Thank you.
Doctor, please, can you help us type that statement into the chat? Hello, hello, doctor. That quotable quote, sir.
Work is work. Please, Dr. Leslie, please type the quote in the comments.
That
Otherwise, I'll
is
pick it up
that is
later.
that is what framing. Let me just take.
What's the quote? What's the
Right,
quote? Do you
my
guys
friends,
remember?
my friends. I have an event starting in 2 minutes.
Oh, all right.
I do have to go. Cyrus, I'll give you 30 seconds because you're on stage,
Hi,
right?
hi, Annie. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I just wanted to say very quickly, thanks for the amazing people who actually shared. I learned from you. Thank you. In terms of the dollarization, is it good? Is it good for Africa? Is it bad for Africa? There are more compelling priorities that need to be taken care of in Africa than focusing on de-dollarization or not. Or otherwise, Africa is always re-dollarization, no matter what happens, because of the lack of teamwork in the continent. And there's loads of like individuality happening. Everyone wants to be the star of the show. That's why right now not many are shining, but when there is teamwork, when the whole team is shining, um, who cares if someone's shining more or less? Like when the whole team is shining. So what Africa, in my view, what Africa needs to do is a little bit of more insourcing rather than outsourcing, because most of the stuff that is happening in Africa, especially, I mean, the things that matter, like importing the technology, bringing in what matters, they bring it from, they pay the experts from other countries. So perhaps the focus needs to go to education and growing the experts in-house rather than outsourcing it, and also lack of teamwork that I just mentioned, and short-termness is what I'm going to finish on. Short-termness is a terrible thing for any business, right? So you need to play the long game. That's my suggestion. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Sorry, I was a different tab now, and of course we need to think more long term. That's how we can't be sustainable. And I think we love I love your insourcing idea. I always say let's fix our problems first and turn at home, and then we can export, and then we can outsource. And I say, outsourcing will come. And Dr. Letty just mentioned it, I said one of his last comments there, the whole idea that, we need to become more stable. We need to become good at what we do.
Yeah.
And how do you become good at anything? You start small, and then you grow, you learn, you grow, you learn, you grow, and then you expand.
And you make a lot of mistakes. You shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. Makes a lot of stop making the old mistakes. Start making new mistakes. New mistakes are your friend.
Coach David's probably dying because we know that this thing about Africans who want more money for doing less as time goes on. That's dumb. That's not going to work. My friends, I really must go. I'm on 2 different stages as we speak, right? Look, so if you are interested in neurodivergence, so children with disabilities, if that's anything on your radar, do join the next room. I'd love for you to come and share with us how IEPs work for you. So I just put the link in the comments, so do join us. But thank you so much, everyone. Coach, I know they're going to learn more about your FinTech Black Box for sure. Michael, you're a star. Thank you, Cyrus. Last minute, you dropped some gems there, my friend. Dr. Leslie, thank you so much. All the people in the comments, Natalie, Roman Sele, especially. And I said, Dr. Emeka, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all. Do join us again. In 2 weeks' time, I'm sure we're going to have another topic. Olawunmi, I haven't mentioned you. So one of the world's greatest management expert. Do connect with her. Connect with her. Go to the event comment section, and engage with the comments. Connect with people there as well. Dr. Molly, so glad you're here as well. Thank you for joining us. There's many more I could welcome. I need to go. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your night.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, Cyrus. Bye, everyone. Every single farmer is a newbie to your farmer. She's success with global.media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with global.media.com.